Germany against the Soviet Union. Hitler against Stalin. A war of weapons, but also of ideology. During World War II, the Führer sought to annihilate his enemy and wipe it from the face of the earth. Thus was born Operation Typhoon, the German attempt to conquer Moscow. Now, let us uncover how Hitler aimed to crush the heart of the Soviet Union to crown himself the master of Europe. In 1941, the Second World War reached levels of brutality never before seen in the history of warfare. After sweeping across Western Europe in 1940, Adolf Hitler's Third Reich turned its gaze eastward, launching the largest military operation in history up to that point: the invasion of the Soviet Union. This mission, known as Operation Barbarossa, was a massive gamble focused on seizing territory, destroying communism, and acquiring the natural resources needed to keep feeding the ever-growing monster that was the Third Reich. In the first months of the campaign, the German advance was devastating. Millions of Soviet soldiers were captured, and vast areas of Ukraine, Belarus, and the Baltic states fell under Axis control. In this context, Moscow became a target of absolute strategic importance. For the Germans, capturing the Soviet capital meant not only a crushing psychological strike at the political and symbolic heart of the communist regime, but also a devastating logistical blow. Moscow was a vital hub for railway and administrative communications. Its fall would cripple the Soviet ability to coordinate defenses and organize resistance. For the Soviets, Moscow was the ultimate symbol of national survival. Its loss would trigger total internal collapse, fueling demoralization and sparking potential uprisings. Defending the city, therefore, became a matter of life and death. It was not only about mobilizing manpower and resources, but also about hardening the will of an entire people for a fight to survive.
Клянемся выполнить свой долг! Клянемся не пустить врага к Москве! Клянемся! Клянемся! Клянемся!
The plan for Operation Typhoon relied on a strategy already approved. Vast encircling maneuvers would close in on and annihilate enemy armies before striking for the final prize. The immediate goal was to destroy the Soviet forces deployed in front of Moscow by forming two massive pockets, one near Vyazma and the other at Bryansk. Once these rings of destruction were complete, the road to Moscow would be wide open. To execute this terrifying mission, the Third Reich assembled an overwhelming force. Under the command of Field Marshal Fedor von Bock, the operation was to be carried out by a massive army. It included over 1.9 million soldiers, 1,700 tanks, 14,000 artillery pieces, and the support of roughly 1,400 Luftwaffe aircraft. A formidable assault force indeed, but its looming weaknesses were just as significant. Supply lines were stretched thin and could not sustain months of combat. Many units would wear down, and vehicles would suffer from poor maintenance. On the Soviet side, the situation was desperate. Chaos threatened to overwhelm Stalin, who struggled to remain calm while foreseeing that Moscow would be the target of the next major strike. Though the forces at hand were limited and poorly equipped, defensive lines were hastily organized around the city, and a general mobilization of the population was ordered. With everything in place, on October 2, 1941, German guns roared to life. The cold Russian soil was about to be stained red by a Germany that recognized no limits. Operation Typhoon had begun. This offensive would determine the fate of Eastern Europe. Beneath a gray sky, as the Russian autumn unleashed its bitter chill, the German offensive surged forward. In its opening stages, it appeared unstoppable. One group of German forces shattered the Soviet front north of Vyazma, while another swept swiftly southward toward Orel and Bryansk. In less than a week, German mobile units had encircled 4 Soviet armies near Vyazma. The scale of these pockets was immense. In Vyazma alone, more than 600,000 Soviet soldiers were trapped. Their desperate resistance was futile, as Red Army divisions were annihilated or captured almost entirely. In the south, near Bryansk, history repeated itself. This time, however, the Germans encountered a more organized defense thanks to counterattacks led by Andrei Eryomenko. Even so, it was a devastating blow to the Russian troops. About 150,000 were captured, along with thousands of their guns and stockpiles. The Luftwaffe played a crucial role during this phase. Squadrons of Junkers Ju-87 bombers relentlessly pounded Soviet columns attempting to flee the encirclements, while Messerschmitt Bf-109 fighters dominated the skies. By mid-October, the Axis Army Group had achieved what had seemed impossible, neutralizing much of the Soviet force stationed before Moscow. Yet, despite these early victories, Operation Typhoon soon faced obstacles that threatened to derail the German plan. The enemy was not only the Red Army, but the unforgiving nature of Soviet territory itself. By mid-October, relentless autumn rains unleashed the dreaded Rasputitsa. This phenomenon saturates the soil, turning roads into a vast sea of mud during the autumn rains and spring thaws. The dirt roads, crucial for moving vehicles and supplying ammunition and fuel, became impassable. Germany's strength lay in speed and surprise, but this natural barrier made advancing at the desired pace impossible. On the Soviet side, a pivotal shift was underway. Stalin, recognizing the gravity of the moment, placed his faith in one of his most capable generals, Georgy Zhukov. From this point, decisive events began to unfold. The first was the secret transfer of troops from the east. Thanks to intelligence from a source in Tokyo, Stalin learned that Japan did not intend to attack Siberia that year. This allowed him to redeploy 250,000 troops from the region. These men, seasoned in extreme conditions, arrived with T-34 tanks and a fleet of new aircraft, forming the massive wall that would shield Moscow. By late October, as the German offensive struggled to regain momentum toward Moscow, Soviet resistance hardened. Beneath the mud and snow, the Third Reich's trademark Blitzkrieg now faced one of its deadliest foes: the grinding Soviet war of attrition.
15 ноября 1941 года началось последнее, или, как его принято называть, второе наступление на Москву. Гитлеровское верховное командование бросило в бой 74 дивизии общей численностью около миллиона солдат, 11 670 орудий и минометов, 1500 танков.
Under Zhukov's command, the Red Army had built 3 defensive belts around Moscow. made up of trenches, minefields, anti-tank obstacles, and artillery positions. Civilians worked tirelessly, day and night, doing whatever it took to protect their homeland. Meanwhile, Siberian reinforcements steadily poured onto the battlefield. In brutal clashes, Soviet forces stalled the Nazi advance, but none became as legendary as the stand on the Dubosakovo Road. There, it is said, 28 men managed to halt wave after wave of German tanks, sacrificing themselves heroically before the full force of the Russian winter arrived. By late November, the first deep frosts set in, with temperatures plummeting below -20 degrees. German vehicles could not withstand the brutal cold. The Soviets, far better adapted to winter warfare, maintained their combat effectiveness. Then, in December 1941, Zhukov unleashed a massive counteroffensive along a 500-kilometer front, bolstered by the Siberian troops. Facing the relentless Red Army onslaught, the Germans reportedly cried out, "Retreat!" for the first time. The myth of an invincible Germany died alongside countless Nazi soldiers on the outskirts of Moscow. The failure to capture Moscow carried profound consequences for both sides in the conflict. For Nazi Germany, the blow to the Führer's ego was as crushing as the staggering losses suffered by his army. The aura of Nazi invincibility shattered completely. This debacle eroded confidence in Hitler's strategic leadership. Counting the dead, wounded, and missing, German forces suffered 500,000 casualties. Furious at the defeat, Hitler purged his senior commanders. Fedor von Bock was relieved of his command, and, in a move that revealed his growing distrust of his generals, the Führer assumed direct control of the German army. With that decision, the seeds of the Third Reich's ultimate downfall were sown. The Wehrmacht would never regain its operational flexibility. Meanwhile, in the Soviet Union, the victory at Moscow became a monumental boost to national morale. The Red Army now stood ready to face any enemy. And so we reached the end of another military history feature. Operation Typhoon became a harsh lesson for the German High Command. The price of arrogance was paid in battlefield losses and the collapse of the myth of an invincible Nazi Germany, left shattered and waiting for the final blow that would end it forever. The Russian climate, deadly for any invader, proved decisive as well, and perhaps even served as one of Stalin's greatest secret weapons. Stripped of supplies and with their troops exhausted, Germany returned home bearing a crushing defeat. Just one of the countless blows still to come from every front where it sought to expand its reign of terror. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell so you won't miss any of our new releases. Until next time.